Hey, I'm Daniel Berger, and this is Adventures of a Real Estate Broker. Welcome to the podcast where Metro New York real estate meets great stories and a douse of humor. Forget the dry sales talk. Here we dive into the fun and unexpected moments of real estate. Join me each week as we explore Westchester, Long Island, the Bronx, and more. You'll hear about the people, the places, and the crazy situations that make this industry so interesting. Thanks to our sponsor, Remax Prestige Properties, we're ready to share the lighter side of real estate. Whether you're a pro, a buyer, or just curious, we've got something for everyone. Ready for today's adventure? Let's get into it. Welcome to another edition of the Adventures of a Real Estate Broker with Daniel Berger. Today, I'm excited that we're having all the way from Ontario, Canada, Andrea Blum. She's a real estate coach, speaker, entrepreneur. She's good at her business. Besides whatever real estate she does, is helping realtors get into multiple seven figures. I like that. Not just one seven figures, multiple seven figures. Building and scaling their business, building and scaling teams. I've read that one of her clients said Andrea's her course was a game changer for their business, and so that's kind of what you want to have with that. Thank you very much, Andrea, for coming on the podcast this week.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So we're it's Canada, it's the winter, so how cold is it up there?
It is cold.
So
If you want to get into that subject, trust me, it's not a pleasant one. It's cold. It's snowy. It's I can do it without it.
before we get into the specifics with the weather though, is it more seasonal, the selling and buying in Canada more so, or is it so that would be the question. Is it more seasonal than what you've seen with other students that you teach in other parts of the country?
Absolutely. It's very seasonal. I think weather plays a huge role. We see people being way more active during the spring and during the fall, and less activity during the summer because people want to take advantage of a little bit of a sun that we have. And obviously, during the winter, people are buried in snow. It's not as bad as it used to be when I moved to Canada, where the snow was as big as me, but it's still very seasonal. Yes.
That's actually made me think. So I'm in New York. Well, we do have four seasons, and it does get cold and snow. It's not like I don't feel it's crippling. Where um, I've been in real estate just over 8 years, and it's not seasonal. It's always. It's
Always.
been a constant always. And what's interesting, just hearing you say that it's seasonal, I think makes it harder, right? Where I think because things are happening in such a compact time period that you're coaching and mentoring of like really planning, right? Where it's cold and you're holed up in your house, you better be doing planning and working on the listings that you may be getting in the future because it's probably happening over such a short period of time. And for me, I put houses on the market on Thanksgiving, on Christmas, on New Year's Day because my phone constantly rings and things that I couldn't have planned for are happening because I have 365 days to work with, and yours is probably a third of that, maybe a little bit more than that. But that seems like that would certainly make being prepared, having systems, I think even much more important.
Yeah. I see it as a huge advantage if you ask me. I don't think I would prefer to work 20, 30, 356 days a year. I think it gives us a huge advantage into planning specific times that you work and taking advantage to enjoy life. And that for me, it was amazing because you can really work really hard for 3 months in the spring, and then you take off for the summer, then you work really hard 3 months in the fall, and then you take off for the winter. Actually, my business was always on 5 to 6 months a year, work hard, and the rest is just travel the world and enjoy life with your family. So I think it really puts us as an advantage because you can know exactly when your business is going to happen. But I can see also that it adds a certain element of uncertainty, not knowing what is going to happen. Is it going to be a good year? I need to wait for 3 months to see if it's going to be a good year or not.
That's really interesting. So, um, y- a lot of what real estate agents and brokers need to do is adapt. And so, you've adapted to what happens in your part of Canada. If I did that, there would be so much business that I would be leaving on the table. Um, but again, you said, you want to spend time with my family. I think my family's happy we're in New York, so they don't get to see me all that often, so that I'm always working. So, um, but yeah, so ultimately, we, I've adapted to my environment and tried to basically um, take what's here and try to be successful with it. So that's the other thing is right, like one size doesn't fit all, and you need to you need to adapt your business plan based off of who yours are, what you're targeting, and all that. So that's true.
100%. And I think you're bringing up such an important point, and we see that especially in people that are ready to expand and perfectly positioned to go to the next level from being a solo agent. A lot of time they may be advised to hire a transaction coordinator, and that could be the case for many agents in area where there's continuous business and the inventory keeps moving fast. But in our case, for example, in the area where I am, the price point is high, but the frequency is not as frequent. So what someone in my position needs is actually someone to create more opportunities for business rather than taking away the admin part. So we see a lot of agents in these areas being actually advised and coached by me to actually hire an ISA first rather than a transaction coordinator because they need more opportunities. A transaction coordinator basically it takes money out of your pocket immediately without you adding more business. So you need something that adds more business rather than give you back time. So it really depends on which area you are. If you're having a lot of transactions, then you probably need someone to take out of your plate the admin portion faster than someone in my area that would need just more opportunities.
Again, I think so. I'm almost afraid to tell you what I do because you're gonna laugh too hard. Um, but scaling. I'm scaling can be good, but scaling for the sake of scaling isn't, to me, that's not the end game. Um, it's not about making money, it's about keeping money, right? So at the end of the day, what does your P&L look like? How much of the money that you've made are you to stays in your pocket? Um, so I kind of I don't have a team, so I'm really but I'm a broker, right? So I count everybody on my team, right? So I'm the broker. I'll tell you the numbers in a second. You're gonna maybe laugh, but everyone's on our team, right? So it's like it's a team and we're all
Yeah.
together. Besides what people normally say, it's the this team or the that team. Um, so I don't have an ISA. I have ways to get leads, but I don't have an ISA. I also don't have a transaction coordinator. My thought was always, why do I want somebody that doesn't know my deal to like do a memo when I can just do the memo? It's just you go into the document, you change your things, and I want to make sure it's done properly. I want to make sure that clients' full names are done, their addresses, that the terms are correct. But to me, to shirk that off to somebody else, I know that at some point you only have so many hours of the day, and that's why I have the bags under my eyes because I just don't sleep. But I did personally 65 deals last year for 42 million dollars of US dollars. Um, and I don't have an ISA. I don't have a transaction coordinator. I do all of my deals because that's kind of me and what makes why my clients want to work with me because I'm not like giving them to other people to do stuff. Um, but again, everyone has to do what's best for them. That's absolutely, my way is only the way that works for me, and people have to decide. But I loved what you said of So leads are, to me, the leads are are everything, right? Um, and so it's certainly very important to have as many different spigots open that can bring leads into you so that you can do different things with it. What I find interesting about you is that the importance of building a listing business. That is something that's super that from reading about you and seeing things out there. Explain that to us, to you, how important it is to building a listing business. What do you do from a buyer's side? And then also, um, how do you coach that?
I'll get into that in a second, but I think you said something that is super important, and I wanted to mention that, there's different ways to skin the cat in this industry, and there's, like you said, there's no right or wrong. I think it comes down to how you want to build your business. Without a question, you can be a business owner that's fully involved in every single transaction from the moment of, let's say, getting the leads to the moment of closing the transaction. I don't know if you can still hear me. Yep, yep, you hear
Yeah,
me.
yeah,
So that's a way to do it. For me, it was very important to create something that I can use leverage, either through system, people, processes, whatever it is that will buy me back time. So to me, when I look at the real estate business, a lot of business owners and team leaders or solo agents, they're happy that they're making a lot of money. And trust me, this industry, it's an amazing opportunity for us to be able to do and have the income that we're having. And the investment to start in real estate, it's so small if you think about it in the entry level. But in the same time, it comes to a point where you have a very good paid job, but it's still a job. It's not a business. Because if you have to be in it day in and day out and something happens to you and you can't actually perform, your lifestyle completely changes because you're not leveraging other people. So I like the idea of creating a business that allows me to not be in my business every day. And with that, it's leveraging people, leveraging systems and processes. And the first place to start with is to transition from being a buyer agent into a listing agent. And don't get me wrong, I think buyers are great. It's just not scalable. It's a simple mathematical formula in which you take the time that you spend with the buyer versus the time that you spend with the seller. And the fact that when you work with the buyer, it's way less that you can leverage to others versus with the seller. So working with sellers, it's harder because you have to create a different level of trust. Any relationship that you have with someone that's working with their best equity, it's based on trust. So how do you create trust with someone that you don't know? Because if you take listings only for people that you know and they're part of your sphere of influence, the chances are that there's going to be a limited amount of listings that you can take. So to pivot it towards working predominantly with sellers would mean to find marketing ways and prospecting ways that you will reach out to sellers that they don't know you. And that means you have to create really strong skills of immediate, instantaneous, almost trust from someone who doesn't know you. So that's where the process is. And that's what I teach and preach all the time in my social media platforms and in my course is how do you create that instantaneous trust? And usually it's a process that involves conversations, marketing materials, and obviously prospecting, which is something that it's almost like a dirty word if you think about it in this industry now, where everybody kind of wants to have things come to them rather than going for it proactively, asking for business from in different circumstances. So the importance of being a listing agent, it's only if you are looking to expand and if you're looking to leverage and get back your time. If you're happy having a predominantly buyer business, there's absolutely nothing wrong in that. I know a lot of agents that are doing tremendous with job and they have tremendous return in terms of revenue from working with buyers. I don't know how much you can do that. Like you can do it for 10, 15 years before you're completely tired. Like to me, it's very tiring. When you are working with buyers, it's also harder to expand. For example, if you want to grow a team, you have to leverage listings in order to create opportunities for leads to your team. So there's many aspects to why is it important to pivot towards working with sellers. But here's one thing that people don't really know, that once you learn how to work with sellers, it's much easier than working with buyers because sellers sell with motivations, buyers buy, they can change their time criteria and their minds altogether anytime. Where sellers, they really sell with motivation. Once you get a seller, it's pretty, and if it's priced correctly, you're 100% sure that you have a sold transaction. And there's a system in place that allows really young, brand new agents go through the same system and take listings like they've been in business for 15 years. There's no difference whatsoever. The only person that knows that they're new agents is themselves, nobody else. So once you know the systems, once you know the dialogue, once you know the marketing behind it, it really makes no difference how long you've been in the business.
So, what we said, we talked about before, I never thought of myself as a listing agent or a buyer's agent, right? I just think of myself as a realtor trying to get leads, right? And trying to work with, and leads then become clients that then, or become customers that then become clients. And so, for being in the business 8 years, and, I actually started my business basically from Zillow, right? Buying Zillow leads, taking out buyers, and doing 30 plus my first year, and then turning that into more. And as I was saying before, Andrea, is that buyers become sellers. And
Mhm.
so, and also as trying to grow a business, being a broker and trying to share leads and have open houses. So the more listings I get, the more I'm able to clearly have people that work open houses. I have some really good agents who I have one agent like in 2 years, she's probably gotten 10 transactions from the open houses that she's been doing that are huge. And I had another new agent just went to contract for like $1.2 million from one of my open houses. So, and I said, that's fantastic because I'm not asking them to sit at an open house to not make money, right? Like
But you
people.
just said something very important, and I think it's worth being highlighted. You had a listing, and you had a buyer agent in the open house, and they got a buyer. So you prospected and you work with one client, which is the seller, and you got two deals. When you
Right. Well, more because
more.
those have legs. So one of our good friend of the family sold their house. One of the agents got 5 clients from that, from doing we were probably on the market for like 60 days. She didn't sell the house, but again,
So here's the value of one listing. One
yeah,
listing that end up unfortunately not even being sold get you 5 transactions. If you would
yeah,
have worked with the same amount of time with a buyer, which usually it's much longer, because the second you put that property on the market, you're not going and holding the hand of the seller for 3 hours every other day like you're doing with the buyer, generated you 5 paychecks. So this is
yeah.
the power of becoming a listing agent. It's about the efficiency of where you spend your time. Buyers are great, don't get me wrong. We appreciate every single client, but it's not scalable, which means that if you are spending the same amount of money into, let's say, getting seller leads from Zillow instead of buyer leads, and you learn the system of working with cold leads, seller leads, and get one seller, you potentially generate 5 buyers or sellers, because sellers actually come to open houses, and then you can actually leverage that by having an entire system of how to leverage one listing to get another 3. So you get 3 other listings and 5 other buyers. So now let me ask you, why would I work with a buyer instead of putting all my efforts into sellers?
Well, only to not to divest, but to basically have many different pots, irons in the fire. Um, but
100%.
that
I have to ask you, you're a broker record, is that right?
yes, I am.
How much time would you get back if you get all your buyer leads to be closed by the best buyer agent in your company for 50% and you get 100%, you get 100% of your time back. So you get paid of doing nothing, and then you use that time to get sellers and put other buyer agents in that open houses that they still pay you 50% on all of their efforts. You didn't move out of the house.
Except that I'm much more generous than that, and my rates are higher than that. So, but in any event, but it's the idea. So again, but I take out. So I have many examples of buyers that taking out buyers that have turned into 10 deals, right? Like one of my clients, I just closed on his brother. I was talking to my wife last night, a Zillow lead. Where the funny thing is, he's a doctor. Both of the husband and wife are doctors. They bring their dog on. The first time I ever met them, I'm like, we can't go to people's houses with dog, and it was in my town. I made them bring the dog to my house. I had two dogs. I put all the dogs together, and we went off for our day. That turned into 9 transactions for me putting the dog in my house, and it started as a buyer. So, and it was three sales, right? And three, one, two, three, four sales and seven buys or something like that. So, I do all of it because I don't know where it's going to come from. But what I would say is, here's an example. Somebody just called me the other day and they're like, okay, I'm ready to sell my apartment and I want to buy a house. I'm engaged, so I want to buy my house. And it's kind of a little bit further than where I normally would be. So she didn't know that I could help her where she's buying. And that's where I'm leveraging my team because I said, well, I'll help sell your apartment because it's more local to me. And together we're gonna work as a to get this person's
Mhm.
going to take you on the showings and then we'll work together. And she was like, oh, thank you so much.
So you see the exact formula that you just gave me right now, and it happened to be because where she was looking to buy was outside her area. But if you apply the same formula into the local market, where you say, it's not that I'm not working with buyers as a team, we are working with buyers. Me as a team leader, I'm not working with buyers. I'm delegating my buyer leads to my team, and that buys me back an enormous amount of time. If you take that time, you can go to Bahamas and just do nothing, or you can take that time and invest it into getting more listings. When you do that, from 40 transactions or 60 transactions per year, you can actually scale to 120 without you working more hours, but working just a little bit different. That's the only thing. It's not that when people are preaching become a listing agent, it doesn't mean that I'm not going to help my seller buy after that. I'm not going to respond to someone who says, "Hey, I want you to help me to buy something." It's about how I'm creating a business model inside my team, or how am I going to expand as a team leader from a solo agent into maximizing my time in the places where my business can grow. And if you continue servicing buyers, which on average take 10 to 20 hours more than a seller, it's physically impossible. It's not that we don't like that commission. We like any commission, but it's physically impossible to close 120 transactions from buyers. You can close 70 sellers and the rest of 50 can be buyers, but the other way around, it can't.
You're 100%. So the genesis of my podcast, The Adventures of a Real Estate Broker, is just crazy things have happened to me as I'm doing my job, from skeletons to like dead animals to there's crazy stuff. And so I'm like, so I'm actually in the process of writing a book, and I hopefully it's going to be done later in the year. And then we're like, oh, I should do a podcast as well. Um, but it's the more so I don't have necessarily a team, except I do because it's the brokerage. So I do leverage it that way because I try every single one of my listings every week. It's my team can say who wants to do the open houses this week. So my job is to help feed people, right, or at least to help give them the opportunity. So what's interesting is while I like to coach and mentor the people, we have a handful of people, maybe five full time and five other ones that aren't. But it's some of it is like there's a little bit of a secret sauce that the people that are selling when people come into open houses, it's kind of someone can watch what I do, but you kind of have to have it in you of nurturing that person, taking them and then and making them feel comfortable that you're the right person to help them buy a house. So while I talked about my numbers, my team did 1.6 million in sales last year and 120 something transactions. So I am in a sense trying to leverage because I do try to help people and give them, work with this or and even listings. I have listings where I'm like, let's do it together. Right. That's how I'm
Mhm.
going to train you. We're going to do it together. And then we'll share in it. So I actually give up some of my money in the sense because I'm trying to help as a mentor grow people's businesses. So I do a lot of sharing of listings too, not just buyers, but listings.
So you said something very interesting. I caught you on that. Your brokerage, how many people are in your brokerage?
I probably on record probably have like, 12, but it's probably more that six are probably more focused on full time.
Okay. And then you said that you personally close over 60 transactions, and then the team to in total, the brokerage closed about 140.
20. Yeah, something 100, something like that. Yes.
So that means that you are basically carrying the brokerage.
Um, Only technically, because ultimately, so I actually probably created my brokerage because I like to do things that I think are proper for the client and legal, as opposed to, well, this is corporate and you have to do the way that corporate is, right? So I became a better, so I actually bought my own brokerage so that I didn't have to listen to other people, right? So that I could be the broker that I wanted to be. And then the people that are on our team, I like if someone comes to me and says, um, I'm working with my church, and we have it right now. Where we have a rental listing for their church, and he goes, "Is it okay if I make no money?" I go, "Absolutely." Because you're using it as a marketing tool that you're donating your services to your church, and the members of your church are going to know that you didn't charge the church. I go 100%. So a lot of brokerages don't do that. I've had people when they buy things for themselves that I wouldn't charge. They don't need if they're not taking money. I don't need to take money either.
So let me ask you this, because I think it's an important question, because at the end of the day, it's about what everybody feels comfortable and wants. And I'm not trying to convince you in anything. I'm having fun because I think it's great. I love the conversation. Um, if you were for you to make the same amount of money that you're making right now, but servicing less clients and having your team making a little bit more money, how would that work for you?
I have no and I spend hours upon hours a week coaching and mentoring the people on the team and having them come to things, having Zooms, having voicemails, having calls to coach about how different things should work. I would love to be like if I'm now 60% of the business, I would love to be 10% of the business, right? So I don't necessarily want to scale to have 100 agents, though. I think because then when you start,
Yeah, yeah,
because there's also a point like I don't want to scale for the sake of scaling. So,
100%.
but the people that we have, I would like to make them more efficient, and I would like them to make money because if someone's making 100 now, I would love for them to make 200 or 300, right? So that's the goal. Would be to scale with who we have. Um, less so, but yes, and I want others to make more money. That's also why I don't do a 50%. I actually built this because somebody actually, the first person I was with, I was making 38 and a half to 43% because of the gross, right? And I was like, I'll never make money doing this. And that was at a national brokerage. And I was like, this is ridiculous. And then I went to another place and I was like, yeah, I don't like those commissions. So I'm trying to do something that I think is can make people be, a living, where they can make money out of it. So it's not about keeping more. It's about, and it's also nice to have people that you really like to have on your team. That because if I'm going to be coaching people and they're going to be calling me at 7 days a week at all hours, I want to kind of like the person, right? I want to be like
Of course.
it. It makes me happy that I can help them grow their business so that they can have a livelihood as a realtor. So so I'm a little different in that sense, and at least the where I'm at allows me to really have the flexibility and the autonomy to to coach, mentor, and grow the business. But yes, Andrea, uh, the way that I scale and the way that I do that is to try to bring people in, work with them, and try to do more sharing of clients.
It's amazing.
So I liked a lot of what you do is also implementing systems and processes, whether to generate leads or to run their business. What are some of the systems, or give me a little bit of a snippet about what systems you're talking about and how do you stay on track, to ensure that people are doing the right thing every day?
I think anybody that knows me, or if you know a little bit about me from my social media, is that I'm obsessed with numbers. I track absolutely everything. I truly believe that you cannot improve what you don't track. So everything has a tracker, everything it's measured, and an ROI has to come in place to for efficiency. Otherwise, we're not doing it. There's a lot to be implemented when it comes to becoming a listing agent or running a business. But I think if I were to just simply go to the basics, when I take a new client as in the my coaching, is that I realize they don't have a system of a CRM. They don't have a system of automation in terms of reply to clients, follow up, no show, drip campaigns. There's there's so much that could be done in terms of systems and processes that agents don't do, and they still do a lot of it manually, which, by the way, I'm a huge believer in, to pick up the phone and talk with the person. That's where the customer service comes in. However, when you deal with a large number of leads and prospects and prospecting methods, if you rely solo into picking up the phone, the chances are that you're going to fall short in a lot of people that could be potentially become transactions. And a simple example is an open house. You can have 30, 50 people have an open house. You follow up with them once, and majority don't answer the first time. That's the end of the follow up for a lot of people, when these people should be an automation between text, voicemail, email campaigns, and so on. And then these drip campaigns, depending on the open house, they move to a general campaign. So there is so much to it. I mean, we can go on, and there's so much to unpack. But if I were to say to a solo agent right now, the most important part would probably be have a proper follow-up system in place with a CRM and automation in place.
Again, I'm afraid to even tell you what I do because you're going to be like, because again, I can't even go there. It's
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
um, but you know, everything that you said makes 100% sense to me, right? Um, Training someone, what you said is that's what people need to do to grow their business, right? I don't do that. What's funny
What I
is,
can tell you is that you're leaving a lot of money on the table. I,
um,
if is your wife around? Because we're
no,
gonna have to keep you accountable
well,
and say,
no.
Daniel, what's
So
the
the
reason you're leaving money on the table where we
well,
can have another
so
vacation, another
so
house?
so so let's unpack some of the things. So one of the things is it was funny because just the other day we were out with a bunch of couples and we were talking about things, and they said, and I was the least and voted myself the least likely to use spreadsheets out of everyone that we were at. Everybody were spreadsheet people, and I go, I don't use spreadsheets. at all. I go, I became a realtor, so I don't have to know I don't want to know what a pivot table is or anything. I don't use spreadsheets. And they were like, well, how do you keep them? I'm like, well, some of it's in my head. And
Oh,
I do use, I don't know if you count this, but
cards, the
dot
cards?
loop. No,
No,
I don't really,
I used
I
to.
barely use that, but like dot loop is where I kind of store I do have my stuff stored in the cloud, documents in the cloud. Um, so I don't really do that. And you're going to die because I'm not a budgeter either, because my view is whatever I did 65 transactions, $42 million in sales last year. I can't say, I can't say that I'm going to grow my business by 12% this year. I mean, that doesn't me just saying that doesn't do anything. But what I can do is is blocking and tackling and every day constantly doing the things that I need to do to have my phone ring, right? So you talk about ROI. And so this is where my wife will agree with you. I should have an ROI. I should have an ROI for this for the podcast. But guess what? I don't. I don't have an ROI and I get to meet you today, right? And that's priceless. So I don't even want to put that. I'm not even putting meeting Andrea today on my spreadsheet of what my P&L is because every time I do a podcast, I meet interesting people. So while I might not have a spreadsheet, I'm listening to you, and I'm going to probably become better because you're mocking me, like
Can I,
jokingly, So
yes, I
yes,
know, I hear you. Can I give you a suggestion there?
yes,
There are different personality styles,
yes.
and there's the visionaries, there's the implementers, and the operation people. And you're probably a visionary, which most likely you're not going to have the patience to implement things, to track things. And guess what? I'm 98 driver, which means I'm a visionary and goal oriented. I don't like any of that. But the second I realized that I need to bring a person like that in my business in order to properly grow and not blow my head off of the amount of business and dealing with everything and not having a proper family life and not having a retirement properly done, I made great money, but to me it wasn't worth it because it's not about how much money you make, it's about what quality of life you have. And there's a lot of adrenaline in closing transactions and having good income, but there's even better to actually live while you're still alive. So here's my advice to you now that I got to learn a little bit more about your personality. Very few people are visionaries like yourself, and these are the people are going to be so goal oriented that they're going to make it happen with no spreadsheet ever. They're going to make it happen. But their potential is going to be limited because they don't hire the right people, which are the people that when you say something out of your mouth as a vision, they're going to sit down and implement it at the best possible way with the best return. These are the people that you spend money on, but they're the best hire. And when you find an operating person within your business, you're going to explode basically because you have the passion, you have the drive, you are good with clients, but you're not an operation guy. And that's okay. You shouldn't.
So, well, we have to come back to a couple of things. So, the wife, we should bring up the wife because you mentioned her. My wife's a partner at a law firm. So, I'm just doing this for the fun. I can't make what my wife makes. So let's start
Oh,
there. I'm
good.
giving all credit to strong women right there. Boom. Um, but I'm not lazy, right? Because I could be lazy because it's probably not an issue. But you know, basically every year I've done more than I've done the year before. And like every year I say, I can't do what I did last year. I'm not gonna be able to do it again. And then next year I beat it. And then I beat it and I beat it. So there's always something of like, so you said I need to hire I'm the visionary and I should hire the person, the
Implement
technical
it.
person. Except, except how many employees do you think I have in my business?
Probably none.
None. Exactly. Everyone's an independent contractor because in the United States, in New York, if I hire one person, then it gets more complicated, right? Then the business changes. So, um,
What
and
things can be done differently. For example, if you can have in your team someone who has more qualities towards being an implementer and an operation personality, and then that could be balanced through, instead of hiring someone, through commissions
right.
instead of
So I do.
different
So what
ways.
I didn't say is I do have a person that's actually my lead generating manager. So I do have an agent. So I've done that. I do have an agent where she's an agent, but she's also running my lead manager, and she does get like there's like a marketing fee or whatever that she's paid, so that we're all inbound calls that come in. We're round robining to people. We're following up. That I've implemented. So you'll be happy
Yeah.
to know that it's not like, because we don't want our leads just to come in and then where are they going, and they're so that we it's hard. That I know that leads are the biggest source of how we're going to be able to grow the business. So that we spend a fair amount of money on. We spend like $12,000 a month is spent on leads. We spend half because I share it with my marketing partner. But we're constantly following up, and we're coaching off of those phone calls. And so that is the thing that I've actually done. So at least you'll be happy to know that I have something. Um, but um, but again, I would say that everyone's different, right? And so what's interesting is,
100%.
could I scale more? Yes, but you could also say I might be at a point where, and again, every incremental thing is good, right? So I'm not, I want to get more. And the way that I can also, the more experience that I have, so I just got into contract a $3.6 million house, right? So as I'm getting 8 years of experience in bigger listings, I now have that in my portfolio. And then I have very good, so I run my own social media. I'm always updating, congratulating people, so even this podcast and the book that I'm writing, right? So I don't have goals, but I have activities that I'm doing to keep my business moving forward. So it's money's not my goal, but more business is. And what do I need to do to get more business? I guess we could turn it around of saying I would never say how many listings I should have or how many buyers. I don't do that, but I do. I am very anal of where am I at? How many have I done? Where are we growing? Because I also have monthly phone calls with my corporate office where we're going over the numbers, and I'm always like, okay, where was I last year? Where am I this year? So I'm very much trying to do that. And then it's kind of like, but like if I run like an ad campaign, so this year I'm spending like $25,000 for a county magazine. I there's no ROI on that, right? Because it's a magazine, but my business keeps growing, so I'm going to continue to do it. It's good recognition. But I'm good because I'm not just wasting money. So that not being cheap, but making sure that I feel that I'm getting something for my spend is important, and that's why for like the podcast. I'm meeting great people. I'm connecting. It goes out on social media. We've got actually uh, I've actually moved to somebody that was on my podcast is going to be the editor of my book, because I was like, oh, he's written a bunch of books, and I was like, oh, and we started talking about it. I'm like, I'm hiring you, and someone else is managed. I'm going to do like a little thing with my LinkedIn where somebody's like a LinkedIn manager, so I get to see all these different people. So yeah, you got to
If you need a coach, let me know.
exactly. Well, maybe I do, but we're growing and growing. But yeah, because we've had this has been a great conversation where everybody can always talk to someone, whether it's people talking to me and what do I see about what they're doing and how can they be better? You're a very talented person, so clearly you see what I'm doing, and you're like, well, I wouldn't. You're not saying you need to change this. You're saying, but you could pivot and you could adapt
Yeah,
because
yeah.
clearly there's something there. And again, if money is scaling, like for you, it could be if you did these things. I don't know about if you're going to make more money, but you might have more time, and maybe I'm a golfer, right? So I do like to golf. So how do I? how can I
Yeah.
help you have more time for golf? So clearly those are things that are important. So um, I'm trying to think. So what do you think it takes for today's person if you're coaching and whether they're new to real estate, whether they're young or old, what do you think someone needs if they need to take to be successful in real estate in today's market?
I think there's two very important things. One, which I would think that that's the first and most important, is emotional regulation. You can have all the systems in the world, you can have all the coaches in the world. They don't mean much unless you learn emotional regulation. You need that to be in this business. It's a roller coaster business, and if you don't know how to manage your emotions, you're not going to go far. And the second one, which is something that I'm kind of bringing back over the last couple of years, you need to learn to love, to be a winner, to be competitive, to love it, to kind of love the game, to enjoy the game. And I think in this world we kind of have this mentality, new mentality of participation is enough, which that doesn't apply in real estate. Nobody talked about the agent that didn't get the listing, almost got it, but lost it, during the listing presentation and end up not selling it. So to have that kind of desire of intention outcome. I want to make this phone call for the purpose of setting up an appointment. I want to make an appointment with an intention of signing the contract. I want to sign the contract at a price that the property I know it's going to end up selling, not just sitting on the market. To be intentional and be strong and be passionate about it and be competitive and have this desire to win, it's so important in this business.
So winning can have different faces of winning, right? So clearly, if you're not getting any if you're not winning any listings, well, so then and you're feeling like down, then you probably want to maybe then you do buyers to get a few wins with the buyers so that you can get that you can get that up because I've always felt that when people are looking at me on social media, they're seeing how many transactions that I'm doing. While listings are more efficient for sure, you kind of, win where you can win. And maybe someone, you know what? You might be coaching someone that they just don't have the skill set for a listing agent, but they're an amazing buyer's agent. So that's where they're going to have to win. But people have to have the idea of what they want to do. But I do think, that's important. But what's interesting is you don't have to go into a transaction and there be winners and losers, right? So clearly, if you're going up against five agents, you have to win it or it's not your deal. So that's a whole other story. But what's good is sometimes if whether you're representing a seller or you're representing a buyer, both people can win, right? Where you're coming to an agreement on a price that makes sense for the buyer, that makes sense for the sellers. The other thing I would say is while there are many agents. I actually am probably the 140th ranked agent in my county out of there's multiple thousands, right? Multiple thousands. So there are people that are so much bigger than me. If I did 42 million, the top people are probably like 250 million or whatever, right? So it's like I'm not them. I'm not top 10. I'm not, I am top 200, but ultimately I don't view it as like I don't need to be the best. I just want to be the best Daniel Berger. I don't need to be the
100%.
best agent because everyone's different. And also, many people have many processes in place and they're spending a lot of money for that. So in the end of the day, you have to feel comfortable in your own skin, which I think also is a little bit my secret sauce of why people want to work with me because like I'm not wearing a suit during the showings and if it's hot out and it's the summer and the agents know I'll be wearing shorts and they're wearing flip-flops. I'm more laid back in that. I figure they want me not for what I'm looking like, but for what's in my
Yeah.
brain and how I'm helping them. But so it's really also how you define winning. But certainly it's true. Participation of just going to open houses and just taking people out and never getting people to put in offers that win. That's that's not helping you and it's not helping your buyers and if you put houses on the market that don't sell, that's not helping your sellers either, right?
Yeah.
So that's certainly important. Um, from an age perspective, you said it earlier that you feel that your systems that you can assist people where they might not own a house. They could be young, and yet if they follow your systems, they're going to act professional enough that they're going to be able to get enough business because people are going to see that professional attitude.
I'm 100% convinced of that because I'm one of them. And I know a lot of agents that I coach that have done it the same. I came in this country without knowing the language, having limited time because I had a daughter that I need to pick up, drop off, lunch, and all of that. I had no sphere of influence. My language was a problem because I didn't know English to express myself properly. And I've learned what to say, and I had a proper system, and I took 14 listings in my first year in, $500,000 listings at the time. And yeah, and if I was able to do it, anybody can do it. Absolutely. It has nothing to do, and I was young at the time.
You're still young. You're still very young. So I was laughing when you're like, I didn't know the language, and I'm like, is Canadian English any different than American English? Because
Oh, you're so
because
kind.
well,
You can
you're
hear
I
my
mean,
you can hear my accent. I'm still Romanian. You can take
okay,
go out of Romania, but not the other way around. No,
um, so
I'm
I'm Romanian too from my mother's side, but part Romanian, but I have I am not good with languages. I'm barely good with English. You're how many languages do you speak?
two
Okay,
Romanian.
well, your English is absolutely incredible. I actually didn't know that. You could have fooled me that thinking that that was your native
Really,
language. So
I
there's an accent, but it could have been like a Saskatchewan, Canada thing. So
no,
absolutely, like that is something that I'm not good with languages, and
I can tell you how confident I am of the dialogues that I teach. When I've learned these dialogues, some words in there I didn't even know. So, because my English was that bad, I learned English at 27. So I had to literally just figure out what to say in the context because I didn't know all the words.
right.
If somebody that doesn't know much of what the other person has to say, and yet I can convey trust to them to hire me with their best equity, anybody can do it. And it doesn't matter the age, doesn't matter the accent, doesn't matter the nationality, background, where they are, what the market looks like. No, none.
Well, Nadia Comaneci is from Romania, and probably most of the world's best gymnastic coaches as well.
Yeah.
Your English is unbelievable. You're being a coach, speaker, entrepreneur, um, learning English at 27, and then doing everything now is a testament to you and
Thank you.
your work ethic. You know so I thank you so much for coming on the podcast this week. Hopefully hopefully it's not just me. I learned a lot, clearly. hopefully
Same.
you hopefully you learned some stuff about, oh my God, look at this guy, what he's doing in the United States. you know and then basically, but I thank you. I thought it was good to bring up some of what we do, because it's kind of makes it more interesting and lively. If people want to reach out to you for to help with coaching and speaking and all that, how can they reach out to you?
So the best thing is Instagram. I'm always there. It's _ Andrea Blum. And then my business, it's buildallrealestate.com. So you can reach me out both ways. But probably if you want to reach me immediately, will be Instagram.
Excellent. Well, I've already reached out to you on Instagram earlier today, so hopefully we'll be able to have a dialogue back and forth. I appreciate you coming
Uh,
on, giving us the time. Your insight is you're just great people, and I wish you the best this year and going forward. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much for another episode of the Adventures of a Real Estate Broker. I'm Daniel Berger. Until we meet next time. Thank you. Until next
Thank
time. Thanks for joining me on the Adventures of a Real Estate Broker. I hope you enjoyed our time together as much as I did. If you laughed, learned something, or just had a good time, do yourself a favor and subscribe to the podcast. A big shout out to our sponsor, RE/MAX Prestige Properties, for making this all possible. Remember to leave a review if you enjoyed the show. It helps more people find us. Until next time, keep it real, keep it fun, and keep exploring the adventures in your neighborhood. I'm Daniel Berger, your New York Realtor, and I'll see you in the next episode.